The shotgun blast echoed through the cornfields like God's own thunder. But it was just Old Man Hargrove scaring off coyotes again. Miles away. Benjamin Harper froze on the splintered porch steps of his childhood home in rural Nebraska, the screen door slamming behind him for what he swore would be the last time. "You're no son of mine." His mother's voice cracked like dry earth under boot heels, her Bible clutched like a shield as she spat the words that shattered the summer air. Rain started then, fat drops pelting the gravel drive, mixing with the hot tears streaking his face. At 22, with nothing but a duffel bag of thrift store clothes and a one-way Greyhound ticket to Chicago clutched in his fist, Benjamin wondered if the devil himself had whispered those secrets into his heart, or if it was just the way Michael's hazel eyes had lingered too long at the county fair last week, promising a world beyond the barbed wire fences of shame. Benjamin's boots squelched in the mud as he trudged toward the rusted pickup his uncle had loaned him for the drive to the bus station. The engine coughed to life like a smoker's hack, and he peeled out without a backward glance. The Harper family farmhouse shrinking in the rearview mirror, a squat Victorian relic with peeling white paint and a cross nailed crookedly above the door. His mother, Evelyn, stood there still, her apron twisted in her hands, the silhouette of her unyielding faith etched against the storm clouds rolling in from the plains. She'd found the letters. Not love letters, not really, just scribbled notes from Michael, passed under the bleachers at the 4-H livestock judging. Words like, "You're braver than you know," that burned hotter than any branding iron. The Greyhound station in Lincoln was a fluorescent-lit purgatory, smelling of stale coffee and diesel fumes, where farmhands in John Deere caps shot him sidelong glances as he bought his ticket with crumpled 20s from his summer hay-baling gig. "Chicago. One way," he muttered to the clerk, a woman with a perm and a name tag reading Doris. She didn't pry, just handed over the stub with a pitying nod, like she'd seen 100 runaways like him before. As the bus lurched eastward on I-80, Benjamin pressed his forehead against the cool glass, watching the endless flatlands blur into golden waves of wheat. His phone buzzed once, his little sister Clara, texting Mom's praying. "Come back. Please." He powered it off, the silence a small mercy. Chicago hit him like a fever dream. The skyline loomed jagged against the dusk as the bus wheezed into the loop, horns blaring and pedestrians surging like a river of strangers. He had $187 left, a cousin's address in Wicker Park scribbled on a napkin, and a knot of terror in his gut that whispered he was damned twice over. Once by blood, once by desire. Cousin Tommy was a mechanic, broad-shouldered and straight as an arrow, who clapped Ben on the back with a rough break. "Kid, crash here till you sort it." The apartment was a third-floor walk-up above a Polish deli. Walls thin as onion skin, the air thick with the scent of pierogies and regret. First job was bussing tables at a dive bar called the Rusty Anchor, where the crowd was a mix of blue-collar Poles, yuppies slumming it, and the occasional drag queen nursing a gin fizz. Ben learned quick. Keep your head down, smile at the tips, and dodge the handsy drunks. It was on a sticky August night, mopping up spilled Bud Light, that he saw Michael again, not a ghost, but flesh and blood, leaning against the scarred oak bar in a faded Blackhawks jersey, laughing with a pint in hand. Michael's hair was longer now, sun-bleached curls brushing his collar, and those hazel eyes scanned the room until they locked on Ben like a heat-seeking missile. "You made it," Michael said, sliding a 10-spot across the bar top as Ben cleared his glass. No questions, no pity, just that crooked grin that had haunted Ben's dreams since the fair. Michael had bolted from his own nowhere town in Iowa a year earlier, chasing graphic design gigs and a life without prying preachers. They talked in stolen bursts between Ben's shifts, about the sting of rejection, the ache of unspoken truths. Michael sketched on napkins, cityscapes with hidden hearts, boys holding hands in the shadows of skyscrapers, while Ben poured out the poison of Evelyn's words, how she'd called him an abomination, how his father, long gone to cancer, would have turned in his grave. By Labor Day, they were inseparable. Michael sublet a studio in Logan Square, a sun-drenched loft with exposed brick and a fire escape overlooking the L tracks. Ben moved in after 2 weeks, their first kiss tasting of cheap Chianti and liberation under the hiss of passing trains. It was tentative at first, fingers brushing collarbones, breaths mingling in the half-light, but then Michael pulled him close, whispering, "You're home now," and Ben believed it, the world tilting into something fierce and alive. They built routines like nesting birds. Mornings tangled in thrift store sheets, Michael brewing diner coffee while Ben flipped pancakes. Evenings wandering the lakefront, hands brushing in the anonymity of twilight crowds. But shadows lingered. Ben's nightmares woke him sweating, Evelyn's voice echoing, "The Lord don't make mistakes, boy, but the devil sure does." He'd bolt upright, heart hammering, and Michael would gather him in, murmuring stories of his own fractured family, a father who drank himself blind, a mother who pretended her son was just artistic. They vowed to forge their own kin, blood be damned. Michael talked of adoption one day, of kids with scraped knees and laughter that drowned out the ghosts. Ben laughed it off then, but the seed took root, blooming in quiet moments when they'd watch families picnic in Grant Park, envy twisting sweet as summer fruit. Fall deepened, leaves carpeting the sidewalks in crimson and gold. Ben landed a gig as a line cook at a trendy farm-to-table spot in Bucktown, slinging bison burgers to hipsters who tipped in crypto. Michael scored freelance work illustrating album covers for indie bands, his style raw and electric, all bold lines and hidden longings. They hosted their first family dinner, Tommy and his girlfriend Lena, plus a ragtag crew from the bar. Drag queen diva Roxy with her sequin sass, and quiet Javier, a barback nursing his own secrets. The table groaned under potluck bounty. Lena's pierogies, Roxy's jambalaya spiked with cayenne fire. Laughter flowed freer than the Malbec. Toasts raised to chosen blood. For the first time, Ben felt the weight lift, Evelyn's curse fading like fog off the lake. Yet cracks spiderwebbed beneath the surface. A letter arrived one gray November morning, postmarked Nebraska, Evelyn's spidery script on the envelope. Ben let it sit unopened on the kitchen counter for days. Paper grenade. Michael found him staring at it one dawn, coffee going cold. "Read it," Michael urged gently, his hand warm on Ben's shoulder. The words inside were a scalpel. "I've prayed for your soul, Benjamin. Your father weeps in heaven. Repent, or you're lost to us forever." No signature, just a pressed wildflower bittersweet, like her love. Ben burned it in the sink that night, the flames licking up the words as Michael held him through the sobs. "She doesn't get to define us," Michael said, fierce as a vow. They made love then, urgent and reclaiming, bodies mapping forgiveness in the dark. But in the afterglow, Ben traced the scars on Michael's back, faint welts from a belt, souvenirs from his father's rages, and wondered if they could truly outrun the past, or if it was a hound baying at their heels, patient and unrelenting. Winter clamped down on Chicago like a vice, the wind off Lake Michigan slicing through coats and resolve. They decorated the loft with dollar store lights, a scrappy tree strung with mismatched ornaments. a plastic cowboy from Ben's Nebraska days, a sketch of the skyline Michael had framed. Holidays where there's alone, no Harper clan potlucks, no Michael's estranged kin. Instead, they volunteered at a South Side shelter, serving turkey to queer kids kicked out like yesterday's trash. One boy, 16 and sharp-eyed, reminded Ben of himself, defiant chin, eyes hungry for more. You too. You're like, real? The kid asked. Fork paused midair. Michael ruffled his hair. Real as the snow out there. Kiddo. That night, curled on the fire escape with mugs of spiked cocoa, Ben turned to Michael. The city lights a constellation below. I want this. Family. For real. Michael's eyes shone, not with tears but with that unshakable light. Then let's build it, Ben. Brick by goddamn brick. They clinked mugs, the promise sealing like frost on glass. Little did Ben know, the first brick would crack under the weight of secrets buried deeper than Nebraska topsoil. Spring thawed the city into bloom, dogwoods unfurling pink against the concrete canyons. Ben and Michael dove into their dream with the fervor of converts. First came the classes, fostering workshops at a Lakeview agency, sterile rooms buzzing with couples like them, tattooed lesbians debating Montessori, a trans dad with a buzz cut and easy laugh. The facilitator, a no-nonsense woman named Carla with a rainbow pin on her lapel, laid it out plain. You're not saviors. You're humans, flawed as hell. But if your love's steady, that's what counts. Ben absorbed it like scripture, scribbling notes on when to set boundaries, how to weather the system's grind. Michael, ever the artist, turned their loft into a vision board. Polaroids of playgrounds taped beside ultrasound dreams, magazine clippings of kids' bedrooms splashed in primary colors. They fought over details. Ben wanted a backyard for soccer, Michael a city perch for skyline views, but it was the good kind of friction, sparking nights where arguments dissolved into tangled sheets and whispered apologies. You're my North Star, Ben murmured once, tracing Michael's jaw in the lamplight. Even when you're stubborn as a mule. Their first placement came swift as a summer squall. Twins, 4-year-old boys named Luca and Theo, yanked from a meth-addled aunt in Cicero. The social worker dropped them off on a drizzly May afternoon, car seats bulging with mismatched clothes and a single stuffed dinosaur apiece. Luca, the bolder one with a cowlick like Ben's, clutched Theo's hand, the shyer twin, thumb in mouth, eyes wide as saucers. This our house, Luca piped up, peering at the fire escape like it was a spaceship. Michael knelt, grin splitting wide. It's our fort, buddy. Want to see your room? They led the boys upstairs, hearts pounding, the loft suddenly alive with chaos. Crayons scattering like buckshot, Theo's giggles echoing off brick as Ben pushed him on a makeshift swing from an old tire. That first dinner was spaghetti from a jar, sauce splattering like abstract art, but the boys devoured it, sauce-smeared faces beaming. Bedtime was a battlefield. Luca demanding stories of knights and dragons, Theo curling into Ben's side like a comma. Michael read from a battered copy of Where the Wild Things Are, his voice weaving magic until eyelids drooped. In the quiet after, dishes soaking in the sink, Ben and Michael collapsed on the couch, the weight of it crashing down. We're dads, Michael breathed, half laughing, half awed. Ben pulled him close, the scent of baby shampoo and tomato sauce a new perfume. Yeah. And it's terrifying. They made love slow that night, rediscovering each other amid the clutter of sippy cups and bored books, bodies speaking what words couldn't. We're enough. The twins settled like roots in rich soil. Luca turned out a tornado of energy, scaling furniture and charming the deli owner downstairs into free bialys. Theo was quieter, shadowing Ben at the stove, helping with pancakes that ended in flour-dusted disasters. Weekends blurred into rituals, Lincoln Park Zoo expeditions, where Luca chased flamingos and Theo sketched pigeons in Michael's notebook, picnics on the beach, building sandcastles crowned with Dino sentinels. Ben quit the restaurant for a steady gig at a catering company, slinging trays at weddings where he'd steal glances at Michael, tuxedo sharp, sketching the cake cutting on a cocktail napkin. But Evelyn's ghost prowled the edges. A package arrived in June, homemade quilts, needlework tight as her judgments, with a note, "For the little ones, if you repent." Ben's hands shook as he folded them away, the fabric whispering accusations. Michael found him later, staring out the window at the rain-slick streets. "Burn it," Michael offered, but Ben shook his head. "No. We'll use 'em. Show her we're not broken." It was defiance dressed as grace, the quilts draping the boys' beds like olive branches rejected. Summer swelled, the city a steam bath of festivals and fireflies. Their family expanded. Roxy became Auntie Roxy, sashaying in with glittery story hours. Javier, now out and proud, coached Luca in t-ball, his steady voice a bomb. Tommy and Lena announced their own pregnancy, toasts flowing at a backyard barbecue in their yard, grill smoke curling like prayers. Ben watched Michael with the boys, tossing Theo skyward until squeals pierced the dusk, or braiding wildflowers into Luca's hair, and felt a swell of something holy, a love vast as the prairie skies he'd fled. Yet betrayal brewed in the undercurrents, subtle as a riptide. Michael started staying late at freelance meets, claiming tight deadlines for a big album drop. Ben noticed the glow of his phone at odd hours, the way his laugh carried from the bedroom during calls. Paranoia was an old friend from Nebraska, whispering you're not enough, never were. One humid night, after tucking the twins in amid lullabies and dinosaur roars, Ben confronted him over melting ice cream at the kitchen table. "Just work, babe," Michael said, too quick, eyes flicking to his screen. But Ben saw the hesitation, the way Michael's fingers drummed like they did when lying about skipping church back home. Trust frayed, thread by thread. The next week, Ben accidentally glimpsed a text, "Miss you tonight. Come over?" from a number saved as Client J. Heart in his throat, he pocketed the doubt, burying it under bedtime routines and zoo trips. But the seed of suspicion sprouted, thorns pricking at stolen moments. Labor Day weekend brought a heatwave mirage of normalcy. They loaded the boys into the back of Tommy's truck for a trip to Indiana Dunes, sand dunes rolling like golden waves under a relentless sun. Luca buried Michael's legs in sand, crowing triumph. Theo and Ben collected shells, the lake's roar drowning doubts. That night, around a driftwood fire, Michael pulled Ben aside, the stars pricking the velvet sky. "I love you. This. Us." His kiss was salt-tanged, fervent. Ben clung to it, willing belief, but the text echoed like distant thunder. Back in the city, the axe fell swift. Ben came home early from a catering shift, the loft silent save for the L's rumble. Michael's laptop lay open on the coffee table, screen awake to an email chain, flirty banter with Client J, a photographer named Jordan, spilling into plans for a late shoot that weekend. Photos attached, Michael and Jordan at a gallery opening, arms slung casual, smiles too intimate. Ben's world tilted, Evelyn's voice crashing back. Abomination. Unworthy. He slammed the laptop shut, storming out into the neon night, the boy's laughter from daycare a fresh wound. Michael found him hours later at the Rusty Anchor, nursing a whiskey that burned like regret. Ben. Wait. But Ben whirled, voice raw. How long? While I'm changing diapers and pretending we're whole. Michael's face crumpled, confessions tumbling. Months of loneliness on the road for gigs, Jordan's easy charm filling the void. It meant nothing. I swear, but the betrayal stung deep, a knife twist in the gut of their fragile empire. Ben walked home alone, the quilts on the boys' beds mocking him now, stitches of a family unraveling. Autumn leaves skittered like accusations across the loft floor as Ben and Michael navigated the wreckage. The twins sensed the chill, Luca's tantrums flaring like warning flares, Theo withdrawing into shell-collecting silence. Carla, the social worker, called for a check-in, her voice crisp over the line. Stability matters. Guys, iron it out. Ben nodded mutely, the irony bitter, ironing out a heart he'd thought unbreakable. Michael begged forgiveness in gestures. Burnt breakfasts in bed. Sketches of the four of them as superheroes. Capes billowing over dunes. I was lost. Ben. You're my map. Nights were minefields. Ben slept on the couch. The quilts a barrier between them. Evelyn's handiwork a cruel joke. He'd wake to Michael's silhouette in the kitchen. Head bowed over coffee. Eyes hollow as the boy's dinosaur's empty gaze. I hate myself, Michael whispered one dawn, voice cracking. Ben wanted to rage, to hurl the betrayal back like Nebraska hail, but the love lingered, stubborn as Lake Michigan fog. Then fix it, he said finally, the words a lifeline tossed across the chasm. Therapy came next, a queer-friendly clinic in Andersonville where the waiting room smelled of sage and chamomile. Dr. Reyes, a soft-spoken Latina with silver streaks, didn't flinch at the mess. Betrayal's a thief, she said. Steals trust. But you can rebuild if both hands are clean. Sessions peeled layers. Michael's wanderlust rooted in his father's abandonments, Ben's fears echoing Evelyn's damnation. Homework was brutal, date nights sans kids, vulnerability exercises that left them raw. One evening, at a hole-in-the-wall taqueria, Michael slid a napkin sketch across the table. Their hands intertwined, roots twisting below. No more running, he vowed, and Ben believed, fragile as new ice. The boys anchored them. Halloween dawned crisp, pumpkins grinning from stoops. They carved jack-o'-lanterns in the loft, Luca's a toothy dino, Theo's a shy cat, goose licking the floor. Trick-or-treating in Wicker Park was a candy-fueled frenzy. Ben and Michael flanking the twins in matching capes, Roxy trailing as a fabulous witch, cackling spells. To the Batmobile, Luca yelled, tugging Ben's hand, and for blocks, the world narrowed to sugar highs and streetlight glow, betrayal fading like fog. But conflict escalated, a storm front rolling in. Jordan, the photographer, emailed Michael a professional olive branch, portfolio shots including their collab, one capturing Michael mid-laugh, Jordan's hand on his shoulder. Michael deleted it, but Ben saw the notification ping, trust fracturing anew. Why keep in touch? Ben demanded, voice rising as the boys napped. Michael's defensiveness flared. It's my career. Ben, you think I can just ghost everyone? The fight spilled ugly, accusations hurled like bricks. Ben invoking Evelyn's ghost. She was right. I'm poison. Doors slammed. Silence heavier than snow. Ben stormed to the fire escape. City lights blurring through tears. The L's rattle a dirge. Below, life pulsed indifferent. Couples strolling arm in arm, oblivious to the shatter above. Michael joined him eventually, 2 beers in hand, condensation dripping like unshed sobs. I choose you. Every time, they sat shoulder to shoulder, the truce tentative, but the seed of doubt had taken hold, vines creeping toward the roots. Thanksgiving loomed, a gauntlet. Tommy invited them to his place in Oak Park, Lena's bump rounding sweetly under her sweater. Ben agonized, exposed the cracks, or plaster on smiles. They went, the drive tense with radio static. The meal was a Norman Rockwell lie, turkey golden, pie steaming, Luca and Theo chasing the dog under the table. But midway, Lena pulled Ben aside in the kitchen, her eyes kind. Heard whispers. You okay? Ben crumbled, spilling the betrayal in hushed tones. Lena's hug maternal as fresh bread. Families bend, Ben. They don't break easy. Michael overheard, face ashen, and later, in the truck home, he gripped the wheel white-knuckled. I'll end it. All ties to Jordan. Swear on the boys. Ben nodded, exhaustion winning, but the wound festered. December brought the agency's first review hearing. They called it a sterile conference room where Carla grilled them on dynamics. The twins played with blocks nearby, oblivious, Luca stacking a tower that toppled like their illusions. We're committed, Michael said, voice steady, Ben echoing hollowly. Carla's nod was cautious. Prove it. Holidays are make or break. Christmas Eve, they strung lights in the loft, the tree a twinkling sentinel. Gifts wrapped in newsprint. For the boys, Dino puzzles and watercolor sets. For each other, leather-bound journals inscribed with promises. To the man who rebuilt me. But as snow feathered the windows, a knock shattered the idyll. Evelyn, unannounced, bundled in a wool coat, face gaunt as a winter moon. How she'd found them, Clara, probably, the traitor Ben never learned. She stood in the doorway, eyes darting from the boys' toys to Michael's wary stance. Benjamin, she said, voice a rustle of dry leaves. I've come to see my grandsons. The air thickened, Luca peeking from his room, Theo clutching a reindeer ornament. Ben's pulse thundered. They're not yours to claim, Ma. Not after. Evelyn's chin lifted, Bible peeking from her purse. The Lord forgives. I've prayed. Let me in. Michael stepped forward, gentle but firm. This is our home, ma'am. Respect that. Her gaze raked him, judgment sharp as barbed wire. The sin that birthed them? The dam broke. Ben ushered her to the kitchen, boys corralled by Michael with hot cocoa distractions. Words flew, Evelyn's litany of scripture, Ben's roar of pain. You damned me for loving like this. Tears carved tracks down her weathered cheeks. I feared for your soul. But seeing pictures, Clara sent them. They're beautiful, a crack in the armor, small as a pinhole. Ben softened, fractionally. They're ours. Stay for Coco? She did, perched rigid on the stool, watching Luca's chaos with a ghost of a smile. Michael hovered, protective, but Evelyn's eyes held a flicker. Not acceptance, but curiosity. She left with a quilt returned, folded neat, for them. Tell them Grandma's sorry. The door clicked shut, the loft exhaling. Ben sank to the floor, Michael wrapping around him like a shield. That was brave, Michael murmured. But as they tucked the boys in, carols fading on the radio, Ben's phone buzzed. A text from Jordan. Tell him happy holidays. Miss our spark. Sent to the wrong thread? Or deliberate sabotage? Rage boiled anew. Michael swore ignorance. But the trust hemorrhage worsened, blood pooling in the spaces between them. New Year's dawned brittle. Resolutions whispered over champagne. Recommit, rebuild. But January's gray slog tested it. The boys fell ill, colds morphing to flu, nights of fevered whimpers and Vicks-rubbed chests. Ben and Michael tag-teamed, exhaustion fraying nerves. One midnight, as Theo thrashed in delirium, Ben snapped at Michael's helpful suggestion to call his mom for remedies. Your mom's a ghost story. Mine's the villain. We're on our own. Michael recoiled, hurt flashing. I'm trying, Ben. For us. The fight escalated post-recovery. Words weapons. Ben accusing Michael of emotional checkout. Michael retorting Ben's paranoia was Evelyn's legacy. You're suffocating me, Michael yelled, storming to the studio. Ben paced. The loft a cage. Boys' snores a fragile truce. Dawn brought Michael's return. Bags under eyes. A manila folder in hand. Divorce papers? No, adoption intent forms. Signed bold. This is me choosing. All in. Ben wept then. Relief crashing. But the betrayal scar tissue pulled taut. Valentine's loomed. Pressure cooker. They planned a simple night. Babysitter Roxy. Dinner at their Italian spot. But Jordan's shadow lengthened. An invite to Michael's inbox for a networking Valentine's bash, laced with innuendo. Michael forwarded it to Ben, transparent as glass. Delete and block? Ben nodded, but the gesture felt scripted. Trust a house of cards in gale winds. February's chill deepened the rifts. Chicago's wind howling like unburied grudges. The adoption push intensified, home visits, background digs that unearthed Michael's flings like landmines. Carla's emails were neutral. Address the infidelity history. Ben seethed in sessions. Dr. Reyes mediating. Anger's valid. Benjamin. But holding it poisons the well. Michael owned it. Raw. I was scared of forever. Thought variety meant freedom. Stupid. Ben's forgiveness came in fits. Nights of fierce making up. Days of cold shoulders. The boys, oblivious engines of joy, propelled them. Luca's preschool play featured him as a Dino dad, roaring lines about family forts. Theo's finger paints bloomed in abstracts of 4 hands clasped. Ben framed them, the loft walls a gallery of proof we exist. Yet Evelyn's visit lingered. The thorn. Clara called. Tentative bridge. Mom's changing. Ben. Church groups got her questioning. Skepticism warred with hope. Could grace extend to them? Spring equinox brought bloom and blow-up. Michael landed a major gig. Album art for a queer indie band touring coasts, requiring weeks in LA. Video calls with the boys, he promised, packing with forced cheer. Ben waved him off at O'Hare. Luca's by. Papa Mike. Echoing. Theo's hug lingering. Alone with the twins. Ben thrived then faltered. Bedtime stories solo. Park runs without Michael's goofy races. Doubt nod, is he golfing with Jordan? Texts flowed steady. Michael's selfies amid palm trees. Luca's crayon replies scanned and sent. But one night, a glitchy call dropped mid-laugh. Michael's background a hotel bar. A figure blurred in frame. Paranoia surged. Ben scrolled old emails. Unearthing a deleted thread. Jordan's LA layover? Drinks. Michael had replied no. Committed now. Proof of fidelity, or clever cover. Ben drowned it in whiskey at the rusty anchor. Roxy sliding beside him, sequins dull in the low light. Spill. Sugar, she drawled. Martini olive speared like a sword. Ben unloaded, the betrayal redux. Evelyn's specter, the boy's fragile world. Roxy listened. Then fierce. Honey, love's a battlefield. But you two, you're the whole damn army. Fight smart. Not scared. Her hug smelled of Chanel and cigarette smoke. A buoy in the storm. Ben returned home resolved. But the seed of conflict had fruited betrayal's poison vine. Michael's return was airport chaos. Luca barreling into his legs. Theo shy then clinging. Ben's kiss tentative. Over takeout lo mein. Michael unpacked gifts. Dino fossils for the boys. A silver bracelet for Ben etched roots entwined. Missed you bone deep, Michael said. Eyes earnest. Bed that night was reclamation. Bodies urgent. But Ben's mind raced. Climax building not just in flesh but fracture. The axe swung mid-April. Tax season's cruelty. Ben, sorting receipts for their joint return, found a credit charge. LA hotel bar tab. 2 whiskeys. Jordan's name in the notes app as collab contact. Drinks 4/10. Heart-stopping. Ben confronted at dawn. Folder thrust like evidence. Michael's face drained. Networking. Ben. He was in town. Liar. Ben roared. Voice shattering quiet. The boys stirred. Whimpers filtering from rooms. You swore. Michael crumbled. Confession spilling. 1 drink. Turned to 2. Jordan's hand on his knee under the table. A kiss stolen in the lot. But I stopped. Ben. I drove back to the hotel alone. The admission gutted. Betrayal's second strike lethal. Once a cheater, Ben trailed. Evelyn's echo. He packed a bag. Crashing at Tommy's. The couch a lumpy confessional. Tommy clapped his shoulder. Give it space. 'Cause. But don't torch it all. Days blurred. Ben shuttling the boys to daycare. Michael's pleas via text, home to you always. Carla intervened. Emergency session. This impacts placement. Transparency now. Dr. Reyes mapped the minefield. Michael's pattern of flight. Ben's fortress of fear. Betrayal's not the end unless you let it be. Ben wavered. The boy's drawings in his wallet 4 stick figures. Labeled family forever tipping scales. Climax crested on a stormy May eve. Thunder rumbling like artillery. Ben returned to the loft. Michael waiting with dinner wilted on plates. Eyes red-rimmed. Words erupted. Ben's litany of hurts. Michael's raw pleas. I hate the man I was without you. Fists clenched. Not swung. But the air crackled. Luca burst in. Thunder frightened. Theo trailing. And the fight fractured. Daddy's yelling? Luca whimpered. And Ben scooped him. Shame flooding. Michael gathered Theo. The 4 of them huddling on the rug. Storm raging outside. In the eye, truth surfaced. Michael admitted. Jordan was escape from the weight. Doubt if I could dad right. Love deep enough. Ben confessed. You're my redemption. But Ma's voice says I'm damned to lose. Tears mingled. Apologies a bomb. They slept entwined that night. Boys between. The thunder fading to patter. Morning brought resolve. Couples counseling ramped. Michael's phone an open book. Ben's walls chipped at with sledgehammer honesty. Evelyn's redemption arc unfolded parallel. Fragile as spring ice. Clara visited. Twins in tow. bearing photos of a Nebraska farm softened, Evelyn with church ladies, Bible studies on love without judgment. She's trying, Clara urged. Ben invited her for Mother's Day, the loft aired of old wounds. She arrived tentative, bearing pie, eyes lighting on the boys' chaos. Luca charmed with Dino facts. Theo offered a shell necklace. Shy gift. Over coffee, Evelyn faltered. I was wrong, Benjamin. Fear. It blinds. Not full absolution, but a bridge extended, planks creaking under weight. Michael watched, supportive shadow, his own family ghosts quieter now. Post-visit, they walked the lakefront, boys splashing shallows, Evelyn's pie tin clinking in Ben's bag. Progress, Michael said, hand in Ben's. Ben squeezed. Yeah. But ours first. The betrayal scar ached, but healing scabbed over, pink and tender. Summer solstice shimmered promise. The agency greenlit full adoption, papers signed in a sunlit office, Carla's stamp a seal. Celebrations erupted. Rooftop barbecue with the crew, Roxy toasting to the Harpers, Harper Michaels? Whatever. Y'all unbreakable. Fireworks burst over the lake, mirroring Ben's chest. Climax crested not in destruction, but defiant joy. Yet undercurrents swirled. Jordan's final email. A petty congrats on the white picket fence. Deleted unread, but its echo a reminder. Trust rebuilt, not invincible. June's heat wave baked the city into submission, but the Harper Michaels loft thrummed with cool resolve. Adoption finalized under a rainbow flag at the courthouse. Ben and Michael in chinos and tees, boys in tiny bow ties, squirming like puppies. Judge Ramirez, a silver-haired dyke with a gavel like a wand, beamed. Family's what you make it, fellas. Welcome home, Luca and Theo. Cheers erupted from the gallery. Tommy hollering, Roxy whooping, Javier snapping pics. Outside, confetti rained from Roxy's hidden stash. The boys shrieking delight as Ben swung Luca high, Michael twirling Theo, their laughter a symphony drowning old dirges. Evelyn came, uninvited but undamned, perched in the back row clutching her purse like a shield. Post-ceremony, she approached hesitant. Pie again, apple this time, lattice crisp. Proud of you, son, she murmured, eyes on the boys' certificates. Ben hugged her stiff frame, the embrace awkward but earnest. Thanks, Ma. Join us for cake, she did, at the park picnic, watching Luca chase pigeons, Theo building rock towers with Michael. No sermons, just small talk on Nebraska rains, a seed of normalcy. Betrayal's aftermath lingered, a low hum. Michael quit freelance travel gigs, anchoring to local studios. Ben instituted check-ins, casual but crucial, sharing phones like shared breaths. Counseling evolved to maintenance. Dr. Rhea's grinning. Y'all are the poster boys for messy grace. Nights deepened intimacy. Post-bedtime, they'd debrief over IPAs on the fire escape. Vulnerabilities aired like laundry. Scared I'll bolt again? Michael asked once. Vulnerable. Ben traced his knuckles. Scared you'll want to. But I trust the man who stayed. The boys flourished, tendrils weaving tighter. Luca started kindergarten, backpack dwarfing him, Ben walking him tearful to the gate. Theo's art bloomed, gallery show at preschool, watercolors of My Two Dads and Dino Brothers. Family vacations tested and tempered. A Wisconsin cabin trip, lake swims and Esmores, where Michael's hand found Ben's under blankets, reaffirming. Evelyn even joined a weekend, her discomfort melting into Theo's quiet company, Shell hunts yielding stories of her own lost childhood. Fall waned into winter's hush, the first anniversary of adoption marked by a vow renewal, backyard affair in Tommy's yard, snow dusting like sugar. They exchanged rings anew, simple bands etched rebuilt, the boys ring-bearers in puffy coats. Roxy officiated, dramatic as a diva. Do you take this beautiful mess? In sickness and wanderlust, laughter rippled, vows exchanged fierce. Ben's, you're my horizon. Michael's my anchor. Always. Evelyn witnessed. Tears unshed. Clara beside her. The Harper fracture mending slow. But humanism's core pulsed in the unglamorous. Luca's asthma scare. Midnight ER runs with Michael pacing. Ben holding tiny hands. Theo's questions. Why two dads? Not mom. Answered with books and honesty, planting seeds of self. Ben volunteered at the shelter, mentoring runaways, his story a lantern. I was you. Built this from ashes. One kid, echo of young Ben, hugged him fierce. You're proof, man. Climax's echo faded, replaced by crescendo of ordinary miracles. Christmas again. The tree groaning under ornaments accrued. Dino baubles, shell garlands, Evelyn's quilted stockings hung hopeful. She hosted a pre-holiday tea in Nebraska, Ben's first return, Michael and boys in tow. The farmhouse stood softer, crosses joined by a rainbow magnet from Clara. Dinner was pot roast and prayers amended. Evelyn's grace including all my family, as they are. Awkward. Yes. Michael's hand gripped under table. Boys chatter a buffer. But progress. A bridge crossed. New Year's brought reflection. The loft aglow with resolutions etched in journals. Grow together. Forgive daily. Ben watched Michael sketch the boys asleep. Lines tender. And felt the damnation lift fully, not erased, but transcended. We did it, he whispered, chin on Michael's shoulder. Built what she couldn't fathom. Michael turned, hazel eyes steady. And it's beautiful. Years blurred forward in snapshots. Luca's soccer goals, Theo's piano recitals, family road trips snaking Route 66, wind-whipped and whooping. Betrayals became backstory. Fuel for empathy. Michael mentoring young artists on Fidelity's art. Ben writing anonymous blogs for queer dads. From damned to defined. Evelyn softened further. Visits biannual. Her Bible annotated with marginalia on love's breadth. She never fully grasped, but loved from afar. Quilts multiplying. In the end, not tragic curtain, but humanistic fade. Ben and Michael stood on that same fire escape. Gray threading temples. Boys now teens with crushes and crises of their own. Chicago sprawled below. Eternal churn. Worth the fight? Ben asked. Hand in Michael's. Rings glinting. Michael's grin. Crooked eternal. Every scar. Every storm. We're the family that rose. And in the quiet, as L trains rumbled benediction, Benjamin Harper knew, damned once, but redeemed 1,000-fold, not by blood or scripture, but by the unyielding architecture of chosen love.